So seizures can be very mild, or they can be extremely violent and very scary. If you're not familiar with what one looks like, I'll do my best to mimic it. Basically, the person will start clenching up like this. Really common. This is if it's a really bad one. The eyes can roll right in the back of the head and the person's going down to the ground. The big danger with seizures, especially for adults, is actually the fall. So like when an ambulance crew shows up, and it's especially a hard surface, they're going to ask you right away, how did he get down there? Really common with ambulance crews, the seizure's already ended, but what we're concerned about is a head injury or a spinal injury. So once someone's down on the ground, if they're still having the seizure, what you're most concerned about is their head. Are they smashing their head into the ground? You've got to do something to protect their head. Pillow, jacket, towel, anything you got to just underneath their head to pad it so they're not injuring their head. Otherwise, you just give them space to have the seizure. Don't hold them down. Don't try and manipulate them. It's really common when someone's having a seizure is they'll get very tight in their muscles, and if you start trying to manipulate them, you can actually tear their muscles. So what's recommended is just move objects out of the way, give them space, protect their head, let them have the seizure, and know that most seizures, they're really short, often less than a minute. Call 911, especially if you don't know this person's medical history, just call. Even though most seizures are short, some seizures keep going and going and going, and that's when you'll be really happy you called a paramedic unit, because they can give drugs, Ativan, to get the body to relax so the seizure will stop. For example, I had a class where there was a mom who had her 18-month-old starting having what's called a febrile seizure, a fever-related seizure. And she called right away, 911, it was really good, but the seizure went on for 6 minutes, and by the time the paramedics arrived, her baby was totally blue. Because what happens during a seizure, what can happen, people can clench in so tight, they're actually not breathing. They're not taking in oxygen, and eventually they will start turning blue. So the paramedics were able to get her body to relax so the seizure would stop. But she was very close of actually having her heart stop because she was running out of oxygen. Let's say I have someone on the ground here, they're having the seizure. There used to be instructions quite a few years ago about putting things in people's mouth, and I still run across people who believe they're supposed to shove something in this person's mouth during a seizure. It's actually a really bad idea. Like, let's say someone tried to put a pen in their mouth so they wouldn't bite down on their tongue. It's a really bad idea. Someone having a seizure can be very strong, and they could actually bite right through the pen or the wooden spoon or whatever you put in their mouth and even choke on it or severely damage their teeth. So it's just not worth it. Don't put anything in their mouth. So my concern when I have someone on the ground here is this is a really hard surface, is this person could actually be slamming their head into the ground so hard that they could be severely damaging their skull. So what I'm going to do is just get something under their head to cushion the blow. In this case, I've got a jacket. I'm just going to get it under their head, basically to give them cushioning. And then I'm just going to let them have the seizure. So when the seizure has stopped, what we're concerned about is, will the person vomit right now? And they're really disoriented, and it's a very dangerous place to be vomiting on your back. What can happen is the person vomits and they can take a breath and literally breathe the vomit right into their lungs. It's called aspiration, and they can die from that. So what you do, you're going to roll the person over to their side. So now if they vomit, you have gravity where the vomit will come out and isn't going to go back into them.